All right, what's going on, YouTube? We're finally back with another episode, and this is a pretty big, important one. It's going to be picking up objects or items. An interaction system, this is the base of it. We're going to be using our gun to test with. And bear with me because I kind of already started this tutorial, but then it got pretty bad and whatever. I was just really tired that day and kind of lost track of stuff. So I kind of tried to go through the tutorial, see what I did and what I didn't do, and all that fun stuff. So I'm just going to try and take you guys along, and we're going to set up this interaction system. So first of all, we're going to just want to hop into our character, and we're going to add a sphere. So basically go up into add component and type in sphere, and you'll find sphere collision. Now, when you add that, it should add to your capsule component, but just in case it doesn't, you can drag it under, and it will just say the root component in this is inherited and cannot be replaced if you are in the right one. So I'm already under the capsule component, and I named this sphere object to near object collision detector, basically because that's what its job is going to be. It is going to detect objects near us, and it's going to detect their collisions specifically, and that's what's going to trigger it. But it's going to basically just be a big circle around us, and honestly not that big because we don't want to detect stuff super far away. If you want an unrealistic reach, that's fine. Just crank the sphere up. This sphere, it will just basically be the reach of interaction. So anything within this sphere, it will trigger the ability to look at. Now, I will specify this is going to be a very accuracy focused interaction system. That's kind of how I designed this because that's what I was working on. But I will do a more general one. And what I mean is think Skyrim, think Elder Scrolls, like the very, very specific object you look at is what you pick up, not just the general location. I pick up this ammo or this gun that I'm standing on. You have to be looking at it very specifically. I will, like I said, do a general one where you're just in the location of the ammo or weapon and we pick it up. But for now, this is a much more like pinpoint location style. So I'm just going to set this back to 32 because that's what I had it at. Pardon me. And if you scroll down, we're going to just set a few things up here. I also have the scale at 6, so scale at 6 and sphere radius at 32. A few things that we're going to set up here is make sure that generate overlap events is turned on. The collision is custom, and we'll take a look at this here in a second. But collision is query only, and object type is world dynamic. Now, everything is set to ignore except for object, and you probably don't have that because we set that up. And I'm going to show you how to set that up right now. So what you'll want to do is go into settings, and project settings is the tab that we're going to look at today. Okay. And down under engine, you'll find a tab called collision, or option called collision, and just make an object channel, new object channel. And tiny window, super simple. Your name of the object channel, we called ours object, right? And the default response. Now, the default response I put is overlap because we don't want it to block. Block is obviously something that it is stopping and causing force and friction or whatever. Not force, but like it's stopping, and then overlap, it just passes through and causes trigger events. And ignore is completely ignore, and of course, we want this to just overlap. So then you can hit accept. I've already made it, so I don't need to. But that will be the default response. Of course, you can change that per thing, and we want it to just be overlap on our near object collision detector. Everything else can be left to ignore, and that should be it on that. Now, what we will want to do, though, is scroll just a little bit further and actually hit the plus that you'll find on the second line on component begin overlap. You'll hit the plus that should be here. And I've already set it up, but it will turn into this, right? On component begin overlap, and then the name of your sphere collision. So what we're going to do is simply this. You'll want to just drag off of other actor and type in your master object component. So for us, this project is the master object component is called BP object master. But whatever your like main blueprint that you're gonna have all your objects be under, or whatever, that's at least that's how I've designed it. That's why it's like a hierarchical system or hierarchy system, to where the top one handles everything that it needs to under it as well. So if you have something like that, you can do that, or whatever, however you need to select the cast for your situation. And off of that, we're just going to check if it's valid real quick to make sure that what we're looking at is real. And then if it is valid, we're just going to set do pickup line trace. Now, if we don't have that variable, that's completely fine. Just go over to variables, add a variable, and it should be a bool, and just call it do pickup line trace. And I added a question mark. You don't have to, of course. But that is that Boolean variable there. And then, of course, now we have the second line, and I'll show you how to make that here real quick. So if we go back to the near object collision detector, we can scroll back down. You don't actually have to scroll back down. You can type it here. So on component end overlap, and add the event here on component end overlap. And you can see I already have it here, so it doesn't create another one. And drag off of other actor, we're going to cast to our master object once again, as referenced above. And then checking is valid on that once more. And then if it is valid, we will set do pickup line trace to false. Okay, so that's all we've got for that. And I just commented this little section, pickup line trace collision, because that's all that it's really handling. So now we're just going to set up the event for what happens when we press our interaction button. And first of all, let's actually get our interaction input put in. I can't remember if I did this at the beginning, so if I didn't, I'm just going to cover how to do it real quick. I have the project settings tab open again, but let me go back real quick. In your main view, of course, go to settings and project settings, and you can go down under engine to the input option. Now we're going to add an action mapping, which is just a button press, and we're going to make or call it interact, or whatever you want to call it, and I'm setting it to E right now. So this is the button that we will press to open doors, pick up weapons, talk to an NPC, blah blah blah, all that standard interaction. So we can close out of project settings, and when we go back to our blueprint character, we can right click in a empty void and get interact. And so I already have it out here, input action interact. And off of that pressed, we'll want to get a branch. And off of the condition, we'll want to get our pickup line trace. And so this is asking if we press E, are we anywhere near an object? And if we're not, we don't need to do anything because we're not near an object. But if we do, we need to keep going. So let's make sure that, and we'll get to this later, but we'll have a pickup item that we'll need to make valid. And we'll check that in a bit. And we'll also have to see if an item is equipped. So we can do this part real quick. So you can skip over this, it is valid. You can make it. We don't have the pickup item right now, but you can make an is valid event or off the execution, and you should be able to just leave it here, and we'll fill it in later, right? But after that, you'll want to get a branch and get a not condition. And I don't know actually we have made this, excuse me. So is item equipped is what we're going to connect. So we're going to check that no item is equipped, because most likely, we're just joining or whatever. Most likely it's not going to be, but in a game, we probably are going to have an item equipped, and we'll handle that later. So if an item is not equipped, we want to equip the item that we just interacted with. Now, this is a very one-sided, one-purpose interaction. We're interacting and immediately assuming that what we want to do is pick up and equip an item. Huge assumption, right? Like I said, we want to use interaction for a ton of other things. So don't worry, we're going to come back in here and branch this out and show how to pick the interaction dynamically based off of what we're interacting with. But for now, we're just picking an item up, and we need to run equip item. And we don't have this. This isn't a function. So let's go over to functions real quick and hit plus, and it's going to add this where you'll want to equip item, and I've already made it here, so I'm going to delete that. Okay. And in equip item, we'll want to pardon me, we'll want to add a few things to the nodes first. So what you'll do is you'll just click on the equip item node, and on inputs, add a new parameter. The first one should be a boolean, and you'll want to make it equip and hold. So basically we're asking whether we want to equip and hold, and the reason why is because on the way in, right, if we have a weapon in our hand, we don't want to equip and hold probably. We probably want to go into our backpack, or if we do and we want it to swap, right, we need to like tell the equipping system what our intention is. Do we want to just put it in our inventory? Do we want to hold this item right now? And so that's what that will determine. So we need to add equip and hold as a boolean, and then another one is just call it item, and we're going to change this object. Just click on the menu here, BP object master, right, and get that object reference, and that will just be any item, right? That's all it is, any item, and that's what we're going to intend to equip. So after we do set that up, right, it should just look like this on its own, and so we can drag off of item and get promote to local variable. This is a specific thing you'll see in functions where it's a variable only within this function. You can't access it outside of this. You can't access it in other functions or in the event graph. Though you should be able to like access it. I'm going too far into it. It doesn't matter. This is basically COVID. Hey, no, I'm just kidding. This is basically just a variable in this function for this function. That's it. So once we drag off item here, promote to local variable and call it item to equip. Connect the execution line, and then after that we'll get a branch, and as you can see, just connect that to hold and equip, or equip and hold. So if true is the condition, then set collision enabled on the item to equip. So the way we'll do that is we drag off true, set collision enabled, right, and here it just says mesh, but you can basically just grab whatever it gives you, delete the mesh, right? And we have this local variable down here. Let me just get this out of here. Jeez. We have this local variable down here that's not in our normals, the normal variable, so we can control drag this out to get it, and then drag it to collision enabled and it'll autofill the skeleton mesh. So that's basically just saying, and we want the new type to be no. So what this is doing is when we pick it up in the world, it will have its own physics and collision, but when we pick it up, we want to shut these collisions off because we're like, okay, it's ours now. Turn all these collisions off. We don't need to be detecting anything or colliding with ourselves. Okay. So after that, we want to grab our mesh here up in the components. You can click drag that or control drag that and attach actor to component as I have here. And it might attach it to here. When you do it, it might go to, or no, it's not going to go to parent. Good. Okay, so it should go to parent. It won't go to target, but you do want your target to be item to equip. The socket name should be grip point. Now, if of course you don't have the socket set up or any of that, you can address some of my previous tutorials on setting up weapons and socket names and equipping our weapons, and I think about episode 2 of the series. Snap to target on all of these, and then our last one will be is item equipped. Well, that should be true. And then there's some more stuff that we're gonna end up doing in this later, but for now, let's back out of this for a second. Let's just go to our event graph. And so now we were back down here in this input interaction, the interaction, and at the end of this branch where we have the is item equipped and the not, we can drag off true and or just grab the equip item from over here, but we can drag that and get the equip and hold off the not, and then the item, once again, we'll set this pickup item in a second. But that will be the end of that line. So now we need to address the pickup line trace. So, and I've already set up the line trace as well, so we'll kind of just overview that a little bit. But let's go to our tick. And basically, first thing is I've got this in a node, but to create that, I just add a new pin, and I started with a branch. Just right click the branch and collapse to node, and then name it whatever you want. So that's how I got to this node section. So I called this node object pickup check, and this is going to be the line trace that checks if we are looking directly at an object. So let's open that up and take a look at what we're doing here. So off the input, we are going to go to that branch that I showed you, and it may not necessarily be connected at the beginning. It may look like this output, so you may have to connect it there. But on the condition, we'll want to do pickup line trace as the option, and drag off of pardon me, drag off of true and switch on cam in use. And that's something we set up a previous for third person looking. But that's, of course, you can look back in the tutorials on how to do that as well. And the selection will be our variable cam in use. And so drag off of a first person cam, because that's the thing that we've got set up right now. We'll handle third person in the future. But type in line trace for objects, right? So, and that's the option that'll come up. And then we'll want to click and drag or control drag our FPP cam and our aim object FPP out and get the world location of both of those. And then on object types, you'll just want to drag off and make array. And then on the 0, just check object. Trace complex, true, actors to ignore, none. You could technically add an array and make, like, do the player character, but I didn't set that up. Debug for 1 frame, ignore self's on here, of course. I forget about that. And other than that, oh, well, let me kind of just explain what this does. Basically, we're just checking if we should be doing a line trace, because we know whether we're in the vicinity of something, and picking our camera, or which line trace we should do depending on our camera angle. And then the line trace is picking the center of our camera to the aim object, which is really far away, of course, so it's just straight ahead. And then it is asking, okay, do we need or let's see, what specific object are we looking for? And in this case, it's just anything with this object collision type. Let me see. Yeah, I set up the aim object and everything. I'm just double checking my bases and all that fun stuff. Okay, so let's go back here. And then after the line trace, we can drag off the event and cast to BP object master again, and drag off of the hit and break the hit result. And you can look through this and learn a lot about hit and some cool things you can do with line trace and play around with stuff. It's a super useful tool and a lot of cool things you can do with it, but we're not going to use a ton of features right now. We just need to get the hit actor. So it's going to look like this at first, but you'll want to expand it, get the hit actor, and connect that, connect that to the object of the cast to object master, and then you can collapse it to hide everything, and it will just poke out the one that we need. Basically, this is asking if what we hit falls under the category and it is at a blueprint of the object master like we want in any of the children of object master. If it is, then cool, we can set pickup item, which we haven't made, but basically we're just going to go over to variables, call our our variable pickup item. I'll just call it new variable because I'll delete this. And we want our pickup item to be object master, BP object master object reference, as you can see that I have here. And so you can drag the as setting pickup item, drag the as BP object master to that. If the cast has failed, set object master. You can get alt drag pickup item and set it as nothing, like disconnect it. And this may just be like conspiracy, and I may be like completely misinformed on this, but from everything that I've learned and known, and I really should look this up before I start like doing this and using this, but this clears the variable. This kind of like gives it a null value without like an erroring, like this is a messed up variable kind of value. So it's just like, okay, this variable is empty again kind of thing. And then afterwards, it's just nice to have a print string on certain things like this that you, even though may have a slight visual representation, you really want that firm, like solid debug that at the end of the line, yes, we are picking up this item, we are tracing, this line trace is meeting where it should go. So what does that look like? Let's take a look, shall we? Let's hop in real quick. I did just drag a weapon in its in the world, and we didn't set this up, but what we do need to do is go over to our blueprint, go to object master, and set the skeletal mesh here to custom, generate overlap events be true, custom preset, query only, object is the object type, and then you can have it how I have here. Block all the objects and ignore the trace responses. That's how the object's set up, and obviously that falls underneath the gun and everything else. So if we hit play here, you can see that we've got the sphere. I turned the debug on the sphere apparently. We've got the sphere and we're not in range of the gun. I hit E, it doesn't do anything, right? I'm looking at it. I get right on the edge of it because technically that tip is in boundary, and you can see I can pick this up just by looking at the barrel because this is a straight shot, is a precision line trace, right? So it's picking up every little bit of the collision. I hit E, and then technically, of course, it should proceed with the equip. So that's what it looks like right now with just the line trace. So let's get the equip going. So I disconnected the gun from automatically spawning. So let's stop the gun from spawning the moment we spawn as well. We're just going to bypass the spawn actor, set equipped item, and attach actor to component just to the rest of begin play. I am doing this much after the fact. We are further in this series, so I can't quite remember what we have after begin play, but just attach it to the last thing right after attach actor to component. All you're going to do is just right click, get reroute node, and then I just grabbed a couple of these and strung them together, as you can see here. And then what you'll do is just attach it to the node directly after attach actor to component. And then you can just grab this reroute and get it from begin play. So now, instead of spawning the gun the second we spawn in, whenever we play, we'll have nothing in our hands. Now, we've gotten to the point in the series where we have an idle position, but as you can see, there's no gun in the shadow or in our hands, and that's how you fix that. And let's not forget to set is item equipped to false, so that way the game knows that we're not holding anything. And now if I walk up to it and press E as we're looking at it, obviously you'll know A because of the red square and B because of, you can pick this up being the printout, but I can hit E and it pops right into my hand. And it doesn't work. So how come? Well, what we'll need to do is, let's see, the end of equip weapon, or equip item, rather, we'll need to get the pickup item and check if it is valid. So you can tell where I left off and what I haven't done. Threw me off guard a bit. Okay, so, and then what we'll want to do is drag off of pickup item and set equipped item. We will need to set equipped item, but currently equipped item is not the same. If I alt drag it out, it's not the same as pickup item, because pickup item is the parent BP weapon master, and equip item is weapon master because of how we had the gun just spawning. We don't need it to be weapon master anymore because we can pick up the gun. So, pardon me. Let's set this to object master. I don't know why I clicked out there. And then we'll just fix it as it comes. Okay, so change variable type. Cool. Compile. And now we have all these issues. We'll address them in a moment, don't worry. Okay, so equip item needs to go to is valid. And it needs to connect to pickup item here. And then we will want to, let's see, set pickup item as blank, so that way we just know that we've used it and it's not just lingering, doesn't have any lingering data or anything, right? And then this is just some future proofing just because it's here, but it's gonna also just be useful just in case you guys are ever doing anything with your camera and stuff. I'm going to set controller rotation to yaw, or use controller rotation yaw true. Gosh, and I did get I'm gonna have this be true just because that's one difference that we'll have in the looking and unequipped and equipped stages and third person and all the camera switching and everything. Just this is kind of like the fail safe to make sure everything's like operating correctly. This and if we grab character movement here, orient rotation to movement false. And then that's that. So let's take a look at all of these. Okay, I equip is wrong here. So so this is where the use of a macro is going to come in. So all of these need something from specifically the blueprint weapon master that isn't in object master, but of course needs all the functionality of object master. An equipped item could be any equipped item, so it needs to be an object master. So how do we get the children functionality of the weapon? Well, we can use a macro to basically call that, and this macro is just going to be equipped item as gun. And I called it that because that's what we're doing. We're getting the equipped item as specifically a weapon. I said a gun, but we're getting it as if it were a weapon. I'll call it get equipped item as weapon. And I don't know why I'm trying to drag that in. Good Lord. And all we're going to do here is get, well, I guess I can drag it, get equipped item, and then cast to weapon master, and right click, convert to pure cast, because we're not, no events, and then drag the as weapon master to the output, and then we can just call that, just delete that, and that's it. This right here basically turns the equipped item into the weapon master just for a second, but it's purely just calling that data. It's just referencing. It's not running any events or functions. It's not running through any event or execution line, right? That's why we're pure casting. It's purely just calling that data, but we know that we're going to be calling that data in reference to some object or whenever we have it held, or just whenever we need it to be. But that's how we're using the equipped item instead of making a completely different variable for the weapon. So now this looks really cool, and I just love how this works so much, because this, let's just get one of these errors. We drag out the macro, and it's just that. You can really do the same thing with a function, actually. I don't know off the top of my head, like, the difference in performance in this and that, and why should you use a macro or function, but I just used a macro because it was just what I used. Reasons because reasons, right? So you can just drag as weapon master to the places where the equip didn't like it, right? And then just recompile to update the error, the offending nodes, as if you will. Okay, delete that. Get this one. Just 3 more. And obviously you can tell each one of these errors is not for the node, but it's for the lines going to the node. And then I believe, actually, oh no, it is the node. Should be both. Well, moi. It depends. Gotcha. Okay. And then that is that. We compile and we're good to go. So now play. Look at it, and we've got it, and we can shoot, and we can aim, and everything works like we expect it to. We don't have like weird like side to side glitchy walking movement stuff because our object orientation is correct, and we can reload. I mean, it takes a second, but my shooting's off, but I'm definitely to be addressing that because we've been having some shooting issues recently that I've noticed people saying in the comments. So I'm gonna see if there's some bugs in my code, but thank you so much for sticking around and being patient with me for episode 9. I hope this helped. If you guys have any issues, please feel free to join the Discord, message me, or comment. Of course, I appreciate all the comments. Like this video because it just helps, and all the analytics, blah blah blah. You've heard it all before. Thank you so much. Hope you learned a lot, and I'll see you in the next one.